You are supposed to do a professional job. You are supposed to follow well-established methodologies. You are supposed to take appropriate notes of interviews and site visits. When you are answering questions about what you did or what you remember, you should be able to say the facts of the answer simply. For example, Mr. Expert, how do you even know that the defendant was the programmer of the system in question? Now, a good answer might be simply, he told me. A bad answer might be, I'm pretty sure I asked him, at least that's what my notes say. Now, you should have reviewed your notes and your entire case file before you came into the trial to give testimony. And you may have, but watch the phraseology in your answer here. How can you be only pretty sure if that is what you really did? Do you think that kind of an answer will boost the confidence of the jury for your other answers? Additionally, why would you quote from your own notes? Do you need to refer to your notes on something that simple? If you personally asked the defendant that question, why are you not confident enough to say specifically that that is what you did? Let's talk about manipulating questions. There are many sorts of manipulating questions. Sometimes questions try to make you feel incompetent or unprofessional. Perhaps the questions are intended to suggest that you overlooked some professional steps that you should have done. You may have had very good reasons why you chose not to do some things. Let's talk a bit about different styles of questions that do attempt to manipulate you. First, pigeonholing questions. A cross-examining attorney will sometimes try to simplify your analysis or characterize some of the elements of your investigations. They may ask you to rate something from 1 to 10 or A to F. Common conventions, you might think to yourself. For example, using a standard grading scale of A to F, how would you rate the hospital's maintenance of their coronary care monitoring equipment? Now be careful here. If the issue were as simple as 1 to 10 or A through F, you probably might not be testifying in a lawsuit. You should resist all efforts by a cross-examining attorney to overtly simplify your answers. For example, you might respond, I believe that the issues in this case are complex enough that it would be a disservice to the court to try to oversimplify them into a single number or letter. Another style of manipulating question has to do with things that you didn't do. As an example, let's say you were a doctor and you are testifying about a diagnosis for an ill patient. Suppose you directed that a series of blood tests should be run. Perhaps one of those blood tests gave you the answer you needed about the illness, and that guided your subsequent treatment of the patient. Nevertheless, the patient eventually dies, and you are being sued. Under cross-examination, the attorney asks why you did not run a PET scan, or why you did not run an MRI on the patient. You are the expert. Is your first response to wonder whether those tests should have been run just because the attorney asked about them? You should know why you did not run them and what those reasons were. You are the expert in that arena. Sound that way. It's a ploy by a cross-examining attorney. Don't feel bad, and do not look like you feel self-critical. Take a breath and just explain why you chose not to run any additional or any different tests. Preferably, you should sound sure of the methodology and test you did choose. You should sound calm, not upset, comfortable that this question has not shown any weakness in your professionalism. Your answer should simply focus on what you did do and why it became the primary basis of your professional opinion and your decision medically. How about some fair but harmful questions? There may be times when you personally have the sense that you are representing the right side. Even though you know you are supposed to be objective and truthful, you may feel that you do not want to admit a fact that will hurt your side. You may be tempted to hedge your answer or to give an evasive answer. You may fear that your evasive answer might keep the fact from getting out. Well, forget that thought. If you know about it and you are being asked about it, then everybody knows about it already, except the jury, and they are soon going to learn about it. A key tactic to take away from this is that you should not take away from your own professionalism with any evasive answers. Just admit whatever facts there are that they know about and they ask you about, and be done with it. Now, there are things like silent questions. By this point, you should understand that giving more of an answer than was asked is ineffective and wrong. A skilled questioner can use an interesting psychological trick without saying a word. Think about the times when you are chatting with someone, or when you are just the speaker in a small group of friends. If you finish what you are saying and nobody says anything, you will often be tempted to continue speaking. An attorney wants you to do the same thing if he seems to pause expectantly, perhaps with a quizzical look on his face. Perhaps the questioner thinks there should be more to the response. Perhaps he simply did not get what he wants yet. Perhaps there is more that could be said on the subject, but if you have completed your answer satisfactorily to yourself, to that question, you could stop. It's not your responsibility to guess where the questioner would like to go. Just wait. It is the questioner's job to ask questions. But if you have answered their last question and no new question is pending, the proverbial ball is in the questioner's court. The questioner may even break the silence by asking a simple, encouraging question. Is that it? That could have several meanings, but for each of them, the best answer is simply yes. How about the actual question isn't your opinion, just an opinion? At some point, the cross-examiner will have asked the obvious questions. You will have successfully deflected what you could and minimized what you could not. But you have not been excused from the witness box yet, because he has more planned. One favorite and usually final question attempts to get you to downgrade the strength of your own testimony. The suggestion is that it is no better than the opinion of anybody else who might happen to be in the courtroom at that moment. For example, so Mr. Expert, considering these different points of view and opinions, isn't your opinion just an opinion? Well, of course it is, you might be thinking. And my teaching about simple yes-no answers might tempt you to respond with a yes. However, a much better answer, especially if it permits you to have the last word on the stand, is not really. It is my considered professional opinion, based on my methodologies, my analyses, my tests, my investigations, as well as my review of the documentation and the materials in this case.